What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, I have a special guest that most of y'all probably know, right? If you're on the t-shirt space, you're on YouTube looking at any type of information there, you probably ran into this channel right here. And the brains behind this channel, the creator behind this channel, the professional behind all of this is your man, Rich, man. Rich, what's going on?
What's up, man? Appreciate you for having me, man.
Man, it's good to have you on the channel. It's good to be able to catch up with you and figure out what it is that you have going on and what type of value we can bring to the people listening to this here. So for folks that don't know who you are, Rich, let us know a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, and how are you helping people online.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Rich of Hustle Ninjas. Primarily, we help entrepreneurs start and scale in their t-shirt business. A lot of it, most of the time, is primarily focused on Etsy with print on demand, or if you're fulfilling in-house. I got my start as a graphic designer in roughly 2003, 2004. Got into the online space, primarily Etsy in 2015, 2014. Pretty much started and scaled my business from there. And in 2019, I got into the whole YouTube space, and it's been a journey ever since then.
Wow. So to take it back a little bit, can you share a little bit of the background, maybe Rich at the age of maybe say 14, right? 14, at this time you are probably just getting into high school or something like that. So what does that look like for you? A little bit of background on where you're coming from to where you're at now.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that's funny because in 2004, when I was 14, that's when I was 14, I was getting into high school. So I just got into my graphic design journey then. And then just like through small connections, I was able to make my first $50 there because my cousin was having a birthday party and she needed a flyer for her party. So, at the time, I was just figuring out Photoshop and stuff. I pieced together a flyer for her. And then at the time, she was in college. So she had a whole bunch of fraternity friends and whatnot. She referred me to someone. My sister was dating someone who was in a fraternity. He was throwing a whole bunch of parties. Pretty much started making a whole bunch of nightclub flyers from there. And then I was born and raised in a small town called Columbus, Georgia. So it's about 2 hours south of where I live now.
Okay.
It was easy to kind of get word around town. Eventually, I started making a lot of different artwork, CD covers, and promotional billboard designs, van wraps and stuff for the radio station and all the local artists and clients there. So, and then I pretty much got onto MySpace. I started posting stuff on there. Started getting graphic design sales on there. People at Western Union me money and stuff at the time. So it was a crazy time, but it was hard to scale because at the same time it was a service-based business, So for most of you guys who are getting into this space, you'll kind of see how you can transform your design skills into products that you can scale a lot quicker.
Okay. So how do you get from a graphic designer to printing t-shirts?
So I played around with it in high school. I went to Hobby Lobby, had some Avery transfer sheets, sold some t-shirts here and there, but at the time I didn't know that was something I was going to get back into. That was just something I was just kind of doing for fun. Eventually over time, moved out of that town. I was late to college. I decided to go back to school, go into graphic design, and then I almost felt like it was a little bit of a waste of time. I just pretty much validated everything that I knew. As soon as I got out, I already had my first born at the time. I was like, man, I need to make some real money now. So, I found out I didn't even find out about t-shirts yet, even though, I did it, played around with it in high school, but I didn't feel like that was the same thing. That was more of the hobby way of doing it. I first got into doing vinyl stickers. So I bought a vinyl cutter, and then I was selling decals on Etsy, and it was a hassle because, with vinyl decals, once you weed it, and if it gets stuck to each other, it's
you got to start over.
Start over. So it was a hassle. So I was like, man, I gave up and I threw that thing. I didn't throw it away, but I sold the vinyl cutter. not knowing you can use a vinyl cutter for heat transfer vinyl. I didn't know like different types of vinyl that you can use, and one of them was for t-shirts. So
Yeah.
got one back, and then I got back on the Etsy, and this was about 2014, 2015. And in my first month on Etsy, man, I posted some back to school t-shirts. It was in July, and I did like $10,000 my first month. Like that was like close to 8-9 years ago now. So from there, I was just like, man, I saw opportunity there, and it was more scalable than just doing designs, because like you can just do the design once or twice, and then you can pretty much sell that same design over and over.
Wow. So, okay. So, like, you started printing decals for cars, walls, and all of that, selling those on Etsy. And it seemed like it was moving a little slow because there were a little learning curve there, especially when that thing kits together and then it gets messed up. So then you moved into t-shirts, selling graduation shirts. And you saying that you made $10K your first month, bro. Like, break that down to me a little bit. $10K in 1 month as a complete beginner. How did that happen?
Man, so at the time, man, I mean, it was 10K, but that was like gross revenue. Margins were a lot higher back then because it was a lot less competitive. I want to say it was closer to like 40% or so. So, but even then, it was just like knowing that you have a skill to be able to, all right, I can go do this again. There's a lot of traction right here. But it was a whole learning curve, man. I didn't even know about Alpha Bro. I didn't know about any of these distributors. Like, as soon as an order came in, I knew I could like do print on demand, even though I didn't really know about print on demand yet, like companies like Printify and whatnot. I just knew if an order come in, I'll figure out how to go get it done. So as soon as one order came in, I would go pick up a navy shirt or whatever color shirt they ordered from Walmart. And then I would come back home, and then I found out about a vinyl place that sold vinyl locally. I would go pick up vinyl there. And then I was like, man, there's got to be a way to get t-shirts for cheaper. I was using all like these off-brand distributor websites and whatnot. Eventually, I found out, man, there's a whole Alpha Broder like 25 minutes away from me. So there was a lot of mistakes that first month. Also, another big thing too was like, for one t-shirt, I wasn't using first class mail. I was using priority. So I was paying about an extra $2-3 per shipping for each item too. So it was just a whole learning curve.
Wow. So yeah, I think I was watching your YouTube channel some time back, and I think that was a tip I got from you as far as like the shipping in different types of shipping and using those poly bags compared to going to the post office and grabbing those priority boxes, because the boxes are free, but we didn't really realize that, yeah, it's free, but it's costing you more to ship that compared to something that could be £1 in a bag and you just grab off of Amazon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if you go to the post office, most of the time those packaging they give to you is has like a flat rate to it.
What led you into the YouTube space though?
Man, so I was also dabbling like a lot of Amazon, and YouTube was just, I didn't even know about this whole educational side, honestly. I just knew like my kids watch YouTube. I used to watch people vlog and stuff. That's how I ended up even with the name that I have now. I thought it was like almost like a childish type of place where like people just like vlog stuff for fun. So I was just pretty much recording what I was already doing. And then I saw like people were grasping onto that. And then like somehow I was like, oh, there's a whole nother educational side on YouTube. So I was just doing it for fun because I saw other people were posting vlogs and stuff. I was like, this is something I can do on top of something I'm already doing. So I was just posting videos here and there, and, you know, COVID helped accelerate that part for my personal brand. But thankfully, I already had like a year set of videos before, you know, COVID came. So I was kind of prepared for it in a sense.
Okay. So what year was that when you went all the way in on YouTube for the most part?
2019, the beginning of 2019, I was posting videos for a whole year. Like almost it felt like a full-time job for like no pay.
Wow. So 2019 to now, your channel is nearly hitting 300K subscribers, man. That's a lot of work there, yo. That's a lot. Definitely hats off to you on that, all the work and the accomplishment that goes into that channel. So for a little quick tip, right? How can you grow a channel to that big? What does it take to really grow a YouTube channel for that of that size?
Man, honestly, I almost feel like I'm just, well, appreciate you first of all for the congratulations, but man, I feel like I'm just starting over. Like I'm learning more and more YouTube stuff now than I was back then, but just growing itself, man, you'd have to hire a team out just to be able to manage your channel itself. I have a full-time editor. Anytime we go out somewhere on real locations, I'll hire a videographer to shoot. The editor probably is going to be like probably the most valuable aspect of the channel. Like I used to edit a lot of my own videos, but I enjoyed editing. But even if you enjoyed it, it's just something that you can get someone else to do that can take a lot of that time off your shoulders so you can focus on producing more content. Obviously, you know, there is a bit of quantity to the amount of videos that you can put out there, but the quality is important too. Like I'm just now learning about creating better hooks, better titles, better thumbnails, creating better retention. So man, it ends up getting deeper and deeper every time I try to study it. So, you know, just post as much as you can, no matter how bad it is, but be willing to know, like, man, your videos still sucked, and you still got to learn how to make it even better.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Because shoot, we be watching. I get a lot of tips from your channel, and yeah, appreciate all of the effort that goes into that. So fast forward now, you are moving into helping students or helping people with this like Etsy and print on demand. And that's one thing for me. I'm gonna be a little selfish on the rest of probably the next few questions here, because I struggle with Etsy and print on demand, right? And at one point I tried to use print on demand to make some products for my brand. But then the products that I received was not something that I could sell. Actually, I sold it, and then it was my mom that ordered it, and it ended up getting this big return. I mean, this big complaint. Mom was mad and all of that. So now you are teaching a lot of people to make, man, it says like 5 to 6 figures a month. You yourself, you are a 7-figure entrepreneur on Etsy. So what are some of the factors that contribute in becoming a 6 and 7 figures entrepreneur on Etsy?
Yeah, well, I'll say one thing too. Like a lot of people try to start out with print on demand for their brand. I mean, you could kind of like sample items here and there and kind of start off with it. But it's really not too ideal. Most of these print on demand companies are focused on volume. So most of the time you're kind of just printing something that's more of like a generic style print. It's not like extreme high quality for a clone brand and stuff. It's going to be like a Mother's Day shirt, a Father's Day shirt, like a birthday t-shirt, something that's more of a gift. Because if it's someone's birthday and you give them a birthday t-shirt, they're just going to appreciate it anyways. And they're not going to critique it as much as like a clone brand. It's like, man, I paid top dollar for something that's supposed to like represent some sort of quality. So, that's one thing you probably want to think about whenever you hop into print on demand. But when it comes to like selling on Etsy, since it is a marketplace, it can be a little bit competitive. But there's a few different keys and factors that helps you get sales. First of all, you have to be selling something that's already in demand. So this is a marketplace that caters towards like popularity and pretty much revenue, because it's not something that's just for a brand. It's for what people are already looking for. Just imagine someone going on Etsy and they're typing in something. They're typing in, I'm looking for a Mother's Day shirt. They're not going on there and looking for Rich's clone brand, because that's not something that's known to everyone. But everyone in the world is looking for a birthday t-shirt, or even Christmas, whatever niche it may be. So you have to supply something that the customer is already looking for. Then, once you got that nailed down, the next thing is like, people are like, I'm posting products, but I'm not getting any sales. So you have to also still be aware of like how you have your whole listing set up. If you have a nice pricing, competitive pricing, if you have your guarantees on there, even for most people who are building out their own websites, a lot of people wonder why they don't check out their own website. You really got to think about all the little things that create trust in the customer. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, do you even got your privacy policy, your shipping, all of your guarantees down there? Because like all these little things, you feel like, you don't have the time to make. Like those are like really small things that even we look at whenever we shop on a website, because like we're trying to see if we trust this new website or not. So those are all those little things you also got to include in your listing so that you have that trust factor to make an actual customer check out.
Wow. Yeah, those are some tips there. Definitely, especially with the further information there of making sure you got those policies laid out, because people are going to check it. When you think, oh, nobody cares about this, trust me, people are going to look for that because they want to really build that know, like, and trust before they can pull out that credit card and spend some money with you. So yeah, definitely some golden information there. One of the things that I struggle with is the fact that Etsy, for some reason, I was always getting my store like suspended, like canceled or blocked or whatever the case is, right? What do you do around like situations like that where somebody's trying to build a business and like for some reason Etsy is just shutting things down? How do you control that stuff on Etsy to the point where they're not shutting your store down?
Yeah, so I mean that's tough. That is something that's gonna happen. I'm not saying it's just gonna happen just because it does, but like I know it's a huge thing right now. People sign up. Typically, I've had people sign up, and once they start reaching out to them, it's usually like a verification issue. You have to like send them your ID and stuff like that. So that's one thing. Another thing is like as soon as you sign up, I would recommend not signing into multiple different IP locations, like public Wi-Fi's and stuff. Just sign up on your own internet and use that same one constantly. As soon as like you create a listing, to make sure it's not something that's trademarked or something that's copyrighted. If you're using print on demand, you have to add them as a production partner. You have to say that you're using a print on demand company, and then even adding the privacy policy at the bottom, because then they know that you're there for the customer. You're not just there for yourself. So there's going to be a whole bunch of little things. I would just say, man, that is something that's difficult, but all marketplaces, all platforms, even on your own website, you can get suspended from Shopify if you don't do the right things to begin with. So, just trying to keep in line as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. So for someone that wants to start off fresh today with Etsy and print on demand, what are some crucial steps that we must follow in order to be successful on the platform?
Yeah, so design is pretty big. Like I know people know how to do the product research. I know people probably even know how to create their listing properly, maybe even price their products correct. Design, if you don't have the eye for it, it's hard for me to train you to get that right eye for like knowing what's trending or knowing if this is the right design that you're supposed to sell. So like you always got to pretty much craft on your skill. But if you don't have the skill yet and you have the money to spend, then you probably going to be better off hiring a designer to start creating designs for you, because they might already be more experienced and you just might have the direction to give to them. So, that's one thing that's kind of hard to learn, and that's just one of those things that kind of takes time if you don't have the eye for it to begin with.
Okay. So what would you say would be some of the common mistakes that beginners are making with print on demand?
Like you said, you probably use it for your brand. So, I would say print on demand too. A lot of people, I'd say the biggest thing is almost a mental thing. Like I find a lot of people look at it and they find like 99 reasons to like not do it, or like they find every single excuse to like not do it instead of finding the one reason why they should do it. Like I'll get on Facebook groups and whatnot, and I'll see it all the time, like, man, there's not enough margin, there's I can't control the products. Anything that's a con has a pro to it. So even fulfilling your stuff, there's more pros to it and there's also cons to it. Like you might have the quality control, like you can see it, but at the same time, man, you're only gonna be one person. You can only do X amount of orders, and then at the same time, if you want to try out a whole different new product, then you're probably going to have to purchase a whole new piece of equipment in-house to be able to do it. Instead, you can test it first and then see if you can actually get some sales. And then if you really want, you can take the money and then go buy the equipment.
Okay. All right, good. So on that note now, I know there are times where you actually had, I don't know if you still have, you had all the equipment and like a heat press and all of those things there, and you was fulfilling using transfers and all of that. Was that part of your print on demand? Like, would you say that it's better to, or what are the pros and cons of actually producing it yourself and or doing it on print on demand platform? Like, how does that work out for you? Are you doing both?
Yeah, so we do it for margin. So, for example, the hardest things to fulfill. So we had a laser transfer printer at the time, so that we use that for the one-offs, but we kind of get rid of that, and we just use print on demand for all of our one-offs, because most of the orders that come in is going to be like this design, that design. It's not, a lot of the times it's not like just one design that's selling the most. But those orders do come in, but the only way you're able to see that is because you're testing the market with 100 different things. But then one of those products are going to take up majority of your sales, and then it's going to be just a single type of design. So we'll take that and we'll turn down the transfers so that we can increase our margins.
Okay. So for increased margins, you're basically producing it yourself with a heat press.
Yeah, pretty much just like a transfer and a heat press, because it's a design that is already proven to get like more than 20 sales a week.
Okay. So now, for somebody that's reaching that 20 skills a week, how are we able to scale that to that 5-figure, 6-figure mark?
Well, I mean, so if you were able to figure it out once, you probably have to go back into that listing and really look and see how you were able to rank that listing to that first page on the marketplace. You know, there's something you did right with the design, or you did the right product research, you had the listing template set up properly. And then once you really go back and analyze all that, all you have to do is pretty much just rinse and repeat and scale from there.
Okay. So now how are you able to market your print on demand business? Is this something that you running ads for, just for the products? Like how do you go about with marketing?
So with Etsy, since it is a marketplace, a lot of it is organic traffic. So we pretty much just leverage that, right? There's already millions of people coming here to shop. So how do we take advantage of that? Is providing the right product so that they can actually get to it. The ad spending to it is just like we spend money to get to the first page. So as soon as they search up our product, we're one of the first products that show up to them. So we're not doing any type of, marketing outside of that. We're not really like spending money to advertise on Facebook or social media and so on. We're just pretty much leveraging the organic traffic that's already on the marketplace. I mean, you got to think Etsy's like a more small scale version of Amazon. So it's easier to learn, but it is a little bit more competitive. But think about all the people that's coming here and they already trust the platform. So, you have trust on the platform already. You just have to do a few things on your own listing to gain that additional trust. But then you also have the fact that all of the traffic that's already coming there. So, that's why you pay a little bit more of a higher fee on there in comparison to people who want to sell on their own platform. You may have a lower fee, but at the same time, it's up to you to get all the traffic to your own website.
Okay. So if we're starting off, would you recommend somebody that's starting off into maybe I want to just sell generic t-shirts, right? For the same way you started with the birthdays and like anniversaries, those generic shirts, or maybe like bridesmaids and all of that. Would you recommend that somebody start that on a platform like Etsy or build their own website with that type of niche?
So they could start off Etsy or Amazon, because like these are places where they're already looking for it. But eventually over time, there are good websites. For example, like I think $5shirts.com or like not TeePublic, like Look Human. Those are kind of more generic style t-shirts places. So you can fulfill all the orders on Etsy, keep the same branding, include cars in there, include your social media so you can direct them back to your own website over time. And then, that's how you can pretty much lower your fee as well. So, your own website is going to be more worth it in the long run, because you can build up your emails and your texts and all of that. So in the long run, yeah, you could probably focus on your own thing. But, if you're trying to look into like making sales immediately so that you can take that money to build something else, then, a marketplace might be the better solution for you if you're not building a brand.
So now what are some tools that you are using now on Etsy to just make life a little bit easier for you?
Yeah, so there's a handful. There's eRank, Allura, Everbee. Allura is pretty cool because they incorporate all like the AI aspects of like being able to build out your listing. Because on Etsy, you have to leverage like keywords and whatnot to actually get people to be able to get to your listing, because you have to use the right, pretty much search engine to optimize your listings. And one thing that a lot of people always forget about is the description. And the description is an actual factor where people can type in on Google and actually just find some of those words that you're missing off on the title and the tags, and you can incorporate it into your actual listing. But, you can't just jumble up a whole bunch of words. So like on Allure, if you type in like what your product's actually about, it'll like pretty much auto-generate a paragraph with like, what this listing is about.
Are you using AI in any way in your print-on-demand or Etsy business now?
Yeah, I mean, so we do, but it's still more so of a tool. Like there's some, at certain times where you could use, like when you use DALL-E for designs, but it's only a handful of times we can get a full-on design and it works really well. But a lot of times it's still pretty much a tool that where we can get some design assets from here and there that we can't find elsewhere for actual designs and whatnot. But basically, too, you can still use ChatGPT as the same thing as using Allure's listing description. So if you already have ChatGPT, you can go on Allure and also build out your listings from there, too.
Ooh, using ChatGPT to build out the listings. Okay, that's... So if, for example, if I was going to use ChatGPT to build out a listing, what is a prompt that you would put into that thing?
I mean, you could just pretty much like say, I need this as a product listing description, and then you can say for this product, which is going to be the title of what your actual product is. So I need a product listing description for this Mother's Day t-shirt, and then whatever phrase was on the t-shirt, and then, you can just pretty much type that in. And then as soon as you type that in, it's going to say something like, Mother's Day shirt that any mom would love, so on, describing the actual product itself. I'm not good with words, so, I use it all the time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. My wife would say, man, ChatGPT is your help. You like sometimes I'll write a post on social media. My wife already knows. She's like, yeah, your assistant wrote that, right? I'm like, yeah, my assistant wrote that, baby. My assistant around here is ChatGPT, man. Right? You do a lot with Kiddo and Photoshop. So when it comes to somebody that's starting brand new, have no design experience, and they're just trying to get the first few product listed on Etsy or print on demand on their website or whatever, like what would you recommend them to go? What direction as far as design, right? Would you say Photoshop or like a platform like Kiddo?
Yeah, so I mean, the two biggest differences, like Photoshop is a huge learning curve and it can be intimidating. So I would say I want you to learn that over time, though, because it's going to make you a whole lot better. But, if you're intimidated and you have a hard time just getting that first project together, then, go use Kiddo or something and just make yourself feel comfortable. Because, like, you'll be able to get a design up in, like, less than 5 minutes. And your confidence is going to build up. And you're going to learn all the basics that's, like, in the more advanced programs anyways. Like, they have layers and, colors and being able to move objects around. And you already have inspiration to start off with, which is the biggest thing. Because as soon as you open up Photoshop, you just have a blank canvas, and that's where you're at. So, maybe start with something and then get your confidence up, and then you can move over to like an Adobe product over time.
Yeah, definitely a big one. Because earlier you said like it's important for you to have the eye for design, right? So one of the biggest things I used to struggle with, or I used to tell my students back in the days, like, the hardest part of designing is actually that layout aspect, right? You can just take letters, throw it on the page and all of that, but if they don't align properly, if that eye is not following that layout right, you can definitely come up with something that's very trashy and nobody wants, right? So a platform like Kiddo helps me to just look at that and say, okay, this is how this is laid out. This is how it's laid out, and I can take that and change the words, put my own stuff in there, and make it your own. So then you have people now that will say like, oh, that's crazy, that's wrong, you're taking ideas. But one of the things that I know you preach a lot is that's still like an artist type of mindset, right? So talk a little bit about like that's still like an artist type of mindset, and how would you, like, what would you say to those folks that are saying, man, you're copying, you're doing, like, that's not your own?
I mean, honestly, that's like how I kind of learned anyways. And then it kind of gave me the eye more and more over time. And I'm not necessarily saying like, just pretty much like copy it and put that to market. It's just like copying it to actually learn like the whole process. Like that painting behind you, you could draw the whole thing and then you can color the same way. But then all of a sudden you're like, man, I learned this whole new, like I see it's like pink and kind of a tan color. Like that's a cool colorway to me. Like I would never think as using pink for a skin tone, So like you'll pretty much copy it the same as that way. And then next time you want to draw a portrait of someone completely different, and then, you pretty much learn like the whole line style that they had. And now you know that, man, I can use pink as a skin tone. And that's like how you kind of get an eye for design from just like copying something to begin with. So I don't know, man. That's just the way I learn. And whenever you go to college too, they'll tell you do the same things.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell people the same thing. It's just, you're not copying the whole thing. You're definitely getting inspiration from it. And then you're changing things up, getting that mindset of how I can go about doing this thing. Like you said, the pink skin, right, on that Nipsey design back there. Nobody would have thought about that, right? But it's stuff like that. Once you see this now, you can go in and be able to change stuff like that and make that design your own. So now I want to go back to the program that you have going on now, right? Like you are now mentoring students or people in your program to be successful in the print on demand or the Etsy space. So if there was a person that's looking to move into that direction and say, man, I want to start my Etsy or I want to start my print on demand, how do I go about it? So what would you say to that person if you was trying to get them to basically come on board to your mentorship program?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we help out with, and pretty much we walk them through everything from A to Z. And like even like some of my students have become some of my top coaches as well. Like I have two of my students who's both crossed over $1 million who are becoming coaches as well. So you don't just learn from like my own experiences, you're also learning from other people who may be in the same position as you was. Like they had a full-time job and, they was able to figure out Etsy and go from there. They learned how to manage a virtual assistant. They learned how to manage a designer and go from there. So there's a lot of different weaknesses that you may have that you don't know about. And that's probably one of the reasons why you may be struggling on Etsy as well. Because like, as we've talked through this entire video, it's like a game of just variables. But once you get all the variables down, that's how it'll become easier to scale. Because like you have the variable of the design, the variable of having the right product, the variable of the price. And like, say, if you just have one of those things, it's like everything else can also make it not work. You could have a really nice design and you don't even know how to create the right listing, or you can have an eye for design. You don't even know how to offer the right product. So, that's what we help people out with, is just like make sure to have all the right variables intact, because once you have that, it's way easier to scale.
All right. I hear you on that. So now how are you staying ahead of like the learning and staying updated with like different strategies as far as growing your Etsy and print on demand business with all of the different like technology that's popping up, especially with AI and all of that? So what are you doing to stay ahead?
Yeah, so staying ahead is like also a little bit of like trying to stay behind, because it's overwhelming with like the amount of stuff that's coming out. Someone's trying to come out with a new product research tools. Someone's trying to come out with like a new design process. And like if you're starting out, yeah, it's probably harder to start now. I see why, because like there's just so much out there. There's too many different methods, too many different design, methods and whatnot. And I'm not saying they don't work, but it's like everyone has their own way. And sometimes whenever you see this person, they're doing something that works, you see that person, and you're trying to collide everything there, it just gets overwhelming. So, that's why sometimes once you find something that works, you really kind of got to stick to it and know that, like, this is something that you can do right here for right now. And then once you hit, like, a brick road, then go look for a different answer.
Looking back now, would you say like, man, I wish I would have started my Etsy print on demand business earlier, or like what would you say about that?
I came in at a good time, but like there was like a sacrifice. Like I had a pretty cool kids brand at the time, and I didn't really know what I had, and I was growing like email lists and stuff. And every time I did a drop, like there was a few $1,000s in sales coming in, but I also felt like it was just more to deal with. like I was kind of lucky because like it was a kids brand. I was selling to moms who were photographers, and they would take pictures of their kids in it. And then like I just kind of had to make a choice. It was like, let me focus on this kids brand, or do I do like the whole Etsy thing? The Etsy thing was bringing in more money at a time. So, you know, I was like, all right, let me just throw this brand to the side. But if I would have focused on the brand, I think it would have paid off like long term a whole lot more. But, you know, I needed money to live, man.
Yeah, definitely need money to live. A little bit about your work-life balance with your family and your son and everything. How do you manage that as far as being an entrepreneur? We'll probably have to travel, you have to do videos, you have to just be a dad and all this other life stuff that happens, right? So how do you manage that life balance and still be an entrepreneur day to day?
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest, man, like there's times where everything's running pretty smooth, but a lot of times, man, there's like no real true balance. Like I do my best. I mean, because at the end of the day, like you don't have a regular job, you don't have a regular life, so you know your schedule's not gonna be regular. So you know, pretty much just having to schedule things out, having a routine for it, and just like knowing like there's gonna be certain things that pop up here and there. Like we could have had this podcast at like 7 p.m. or something, so I would have had to miss out on dinner to, you know, take on the opportunities. Sometimes you gotta weigh in what's worth your time and what's not. So, but in the very beginning, those first few years, man, you're gonna have to grind out, and you're gonna have to trust the fact that you know the process enough to be able to scale and like hire someone else out to fulfill like positions that you shouldn't really be doing, like product fulfillment or something like that.
Like, what is one challenge that you say, man, I'm still juggling this thing here. I still can't get my hand around this as far as a entrepreneur on the online space?
I mean, overall, I would say I'm spending a lot of time trying to learn YouTube right now, even though like, you know, where I'm at, like I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out. On top of that too, is like I have a hard time with social media just because like, man, I'll get on the internet and sometimes you forget like how blessed to be you already are in the position that you are, and just like seeing everyone else's success and you feel like you're behind. So sometimes, man, it's hard for me to just tune that out. So, you know, that's probably like my worst balance, honestly. I'm struggling with a lot of those things and like trying to tune that out so I can just like focus on me sometimes.
Yeah, focusing on you. That's an important part. Just taking some self-time and just, yeah, being a human being, right? Because social media can definitely drain you, man. It can take a toll on you. For me, sheesh, like, man, I feel like that's where I'm at all day long, right? But if you're not there, then you won't be able to grow a platform to the level that some of us have, right? And to yourself, like, if you was not on YouTube and constantly growing, then the channel is just going to be stagnant. It's not going to grow. So it's important for us to just always take those challenges and just keep diving into it and see how much we can take off of that to make it less of a challenge, right? So now you're pushing a brand, I think, yeah, the Afters.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a brand called After Hours, where your hours make your brightest days. So for a lot of that, you know, that's kind of more of a family business right now. So I have both of my cousins actually working on that. So, you know, that's pretty much the brand that we've been focused on for the last few months, and we've been doing some collaborations here and there, and it's been working pretty smooth. But that's a whole new thing that I'm trying to work on as well. You know, like as I said in the past, that was something I gave up on before, and I felt like it would have paid off in the long run. So, you know, the first few years, maybe it don't work out, but I think in the long run, it's gonna do pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Myself, I'm trying to pick up a brand right now. I feel like trying to do less of a service as far as print for people, and then try to take all of that and push it on to a brand that I recently started moving. It's called Sundays Merch, just to move everything towards just, you know, just doing something that I originally wanted to do. When I started years ago, it was to do a brand, right? And then we started doing custom apparels, and custom started to pay. The brand fell off. You feel me? So now we are at a position where I was like, okay, now I guess I can put some time into this brand stuff here and just less of the service-based stuff. Were you ever into that type of model, just like the custom for maybe not online, but just like a local home-based business? Is that something you ever did?
Oh yeah, we done a lot of business friends. It's just like it was one of those things you can't really turn down whenever you first need money, man. If there's a few $1,000 order laying here and there, then that's something you probably want to take on, especially if you're starting off. But I would just say don't get distracted because it's gonna be a whole different business model. It's gonna hold you back from learning how to do online sales. So that's a whole different game on its own too. And even building a brand, those are 3 different business models. That's one of the things is like, man, I would recommend a lot of contract printing. Like I have good relationships with my screen printer. We're at a good price right now. So like if I had some kind of order like that come in, I'll send it to him and, you know, we'll figure that out. But right now that's not a huge focus for me, but we didn't that, man. It's a really good, you know, extra paycheck and, you know, it's just a decent, valuable skill to like be able to, it's a blessing to be able to like get those extra checks whenever like you're first figuring it out.
Most definitely, especially if you already got a heat press, man. With a heat press, it's true, you ain't turning nothing down. Just, bring a design, grab some transfer, especially in the world of transfers now and days. So if you were looking back now into where you are at now, what is one thing, right? What is that one thing you wish you had known a little bit earlier when you were starting out?
That's a good question. I would say just like my most valuable thing right now is like I have a lot of partners. So I would say just because you're partnering with someone doesn't mean like you're going to make less money. It's actually going to mean like almost the opposite if it's the right person for you. Like I have a partner for my Etsy shop. He helps me manage a lot of my stuff. I have a partner for Amazon. Even like the coaching side, I have people who coaches for me, you know, that I have people who put that whole process, the program here. So, you know, just because like you're partnering with someone doesn't mean you're going to make less, you know, it's actually going to be, you know, the complete opposite. If both of you guys are dedicated, even the clone brand, I have 2 other partners so that, you know, and they're able to manage a whole event, even if I'm not there. So, you know, you really just got to be in line with the right people so that, you know, you can just go in one direction.
What would you say to a person that is starting today and that wants to have success like you have had up to 6 to 7 figures and they just want to get into the game and get started?
Yeah, a lot of like the process is laid out. It's going to be a whole lot of mental battles, honestly. Like confidence is going to be number 1. Like if you just started out today, man, like go get a haircut or something. Ladies need to go get like their nails done, their hair done, because like you're going to have the highest level of confidence coming into it. Like when you're wrong, you still need to feel like you're right. Like a lot of like your friends and family is probably going to tell you if you're doing the wrong thing, but you still need to feel like you're doing the right thing. You're going to have like the highest level of confidence possible. You know, the only time when you're probably wrong is someone who's probably experienced telling you the right things and they want you to do good for yourself. You know, that's probably one of those times you should step back and listen, but man, you got to have so much confidence that you know you're not going to fail no matter what.
Yeah. Confidence is definitely a big thing. I tell people is you definitely, the first C, you have to have confidence, you have to have clarity. You know, once you have that confidence and that clarity, then you are heading in the right direction, and then you just have to niche down and figure out who and what you're trying to sell. So on that note of niching down, before we go, like what would you say, like how important is it in the Etsy space or the print-on-demand online business? How important is it for you to niche down, like some people would say, in order for you to find this success?
I mean, so the niches are going to come to you whenever you know how to do the proper research, but it's going to be important that you stick to certain niches because it's going to be your money makers. For example, Father's Day is coming up. Even coming sooner than that, it's going to be like a Teacher Appreciation Week. That's going to be a huge thing, like on Etsy. So if you hop on that, you'll probably see your first few sales. So you know, just each and every single niche that you even can think about, and that you know for a fact like drives customers there, then that's something that you should probably be focusing on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything else you want to tell the people before we go?
Oh man, I just want to let you know, man. Appreciate you for having me on, man.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Appreciate all of the golden nuggets. Now might be in a better position to go and jump on Etsy and try to give it another shot. Not for the brand, but for maybe some teacher appreciation shirts or something like that, right? So yeah, let people know where they can find you, and tell us a little bit about your program and how anybody can jump on board.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Rich_KHUN. And if you are interested, like applying for coaching or something, you can just click the link in the bio and you should be able to sign up from there.
Okay. All right. So yeah, appreciate you, man. And thank you again for jumping on and sharing all of this valuable information for us.
Man, appreciate you.